What's up, YouTube? Welcome in. Another show. You know the deal. We're talking Big 12 football here on this channel. And we've got something to talk about today, not just an awesome week 2 of games coming up in the Big 12, which I thought would carry us and be the majority of what I'm talking about today. But that was before Brett Yormark made some, I'm going to call them explosive comments. They were explosive in terms of the reaction throughout the college football world today. They weren't really explosive to me. But the college football world is talking about what Brett Yormark had to say upon making his stop at Cincinnati. So obviously he did the tour of the schools currently in the Big 12. He's also hitting the 4 schools that are coming into the league. And he made his pit stop at Cincinnati and really shook some things up with what it is that he said about the Big 12 and its plans. And I think in general, they have sparked a reaction because they came in the aftermath of what we found out about college football playoff expansion, where a lot of people figured, hey, with playoff expansion, that's probably going to slow down realignment a little bit. And I still think that it does and will slow down, in particular, the Big Ten expansion piece of this. And we can get into some of the intricacies of this, but it may not slow down the Big 12. And it certainly doesn't sound like it is slowing down the Big 12 if you're listening to Brett Yormark. May not slow down the Pac-12 as well either. So I'm going to get you the full comments. We will also get the Pac-12 reaction to it. I've seen just a little bit. I didn't really see anything from Canzano, but I did see some from Wilner. So I'll let you know what he had to say in the wake of this news. He was also chatting a little bit about San Diego State because there was some speculation that Brett Yormark's comments today may be indirectly a little bit about San Diego State as well. So I think all of that is very interesting. So again, this is going to be another one of those shows, kind of like half realignment update and half what's actually happening on the field, which it is an incredible slate of games in the Big 12. Just so interesting. I mean, you've got 2 future conference matchups, Texas Tech and Houston and BYU and Baylor, that are both just phenomenal matchups, I think, on the field. And I'm so intrigued to see what actually happens there. And then you've got rivalry games like Iowa State, Iowa. You've even got a conference game like Kansas, West Virginia, which has so much more interest on it, I think, than it would typically because of all the buzz around Kansas and the improvement that they have made throughout the offseason heading into this year. And then how about an old conference matchup? K-State, Mizzou this weekend also. Like, all sorts of things to talk about. To me, I'm really framing it like a prove-it week in the Big 12. We saw a lot of nice, encouraging things in week 1. I told you guys I felt like it was really a week that proved or seemingly proved the notion that this is going to be a really deep league, that while there may not be a great team up at the top that's going to be a Cincinnati and get to the college football playoff this year, it's going to be a really tough league that beats up on each other because every week is not going to be a gimme. Like, you will not have gimmies in this conference based on the way everybody looked in week 1. So now, can some of these teams really prove it? Can they back up some of the storylines and narratives surrounding them coming out of week 1? That's going to be what we will find out in week 2. I'll tell you this much, man. I've had to see way too much about bans this week. I don't know if we'll have time to get to this, but if you paid attention to the story about Texas and Alabama, which, hey, by the way, that's another storyline this week. Texas is playing Alabama. I'm not sure if you've heard. The entire college football world is descending upon Austin. Every single pregame show that's ever been conceived in college football history is going to descend upon Austin. But Alabama is not happy with Texas because they're not going to send their band because of where Texas was trying to stick their band. A very dumb controversy. Meanwhile, on the home front, I'm dealing with another dumb K-State controversy that involves at least somewhat the band as well. So I've had enough of band talk. I would appreciate no band talk. I'm not going to kick you out for band talk, but I'm a little exhausted with it. I'd prefer to talk, football and the thing that we're actually all here to watch and discuss. So I'm just a little bit worn out with that discussion by this point, but I appreciate all of you guys that are here. We're going to have some fun tonight. As always, if you've been here before, you know the drill, but if you haven't, I will remind you here. Going to be a lot of people in the chat. We're already pushing, 125, just went over 125 in the chat. So there will be a lot of action. I will not have time to read very much of it. If you want your question or comment to get in, you can do like Calico Willie just did and donate. You click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. You donate, then it will pin it up at the top for me. I will see it. It guarantees that I read your question or comment here on the chat. So you can control the content, make your voice heard, and support the work that I'm doing here, bringing you Big 12 content week in and week out. It is much appreciated. So I love your comments. I love what you guys bring to the table. And this week in particular, man, we got BYU Baylor. We got Texas Tech Houston. I'm here for some smack talk for you guys. So if you want to talk your stuff and have me read it, That's how you do it. Click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. You can also help support the channel without paying any money by just simply clicking the like button on the video. That's an easy, free way to do that. I also appreciate that. Helps me with the YouTube algorithm, helps the views out. You guys get it. But if you could go like the video, I would also very much appreciate that. Okay, table is set. Let's go ahead and have dinner. Let's eat. Let's eat, as the kids say. Calico Willie, I appreciate the donation here. Calico Willie says, John, I need help with anxiety. Had a nightmare. I fell asleep at the Bill during the Mizzou game and came to with Missouri celebrating a win. Then I woke up. Help. LOL. Still believe we will rock. Emom. Calico Willie, I think the Cats will be fine. I feel generally, I'm not going to lie. After the game on Saturday, going into the year, I felt great about the Mizzou game. Then after watching Mizzou and watching K-State throughout the first weekend, I would say that I had come back a little bit to being, somewhat concerned. Mizzou, I still think has quarterback issues. They have a great player in Luther Burden. I'm not sure that they have great ways to get him the ball. Their defense looked pretty athletic. Their defense looked a lot better than it did last year, but Louisiana Tech was picked 9th in CUSA, so it's hard to know. And then I watched K-State, and got very conservative after running out to a 4-touchdown lead. But Adrian Martinez only threw for 53 yards. They didn't really ask him to do much. I'm concerned about a downfield passing game. I don't know. I have some concerns, but as the week has gone on, I've started to come back around to feeling a little bit better about it. I certainly understand the Martinez concerns, but I think he will be fine. As people have reminded me, he's thrown for whatever, 10,000 yards in his career. The problem has been turnovers. He's cut it loose and thrown it downfield a lot. Deuce Vaughn's great. Mizzou's rush defense was terrible last year. I think K-State will be all right. But it's going to be a really fun game. I just love the fact that regional rivalry and a rivalry that has been these teams have been playing for years, since the early 1900s, K-State and Mizzou. So it's going to be awesome to have that reignited back for the first time since 2011. Last time these two teams played, when K-State sent Mizzou to the SEC with a loss, and the mock SEC chants echoing throughout the stadium. So Calico Willie, appreciate the support, appreciate the donation, my friend. That's my synopsis of the game. I think K-State will win a fairly tight one. The line, I was surprised to see start at like 8.5. I think K-State by a touchdown or so feels right to me in this game, and I'd be pretty happy with that. Take it, go on to Tulane, and then get into Big 12 play and head to Oklahoma to start things. McMuffin, what a name. Mick Muffin, my man. McMuffin, thank you for the donation. Thank you for the support. I can already tell I'm going to agree with this take. McMuffin says Provo got robbed. College game day should be at the BYU Baylor game. Should be the best game this week and the best rivalry game in the new Big 12. Sick 'em Bears. Ooh, screw Tech. All right, I didn't see that part at the end. Don't come for me, Cactus Mafia. That was McMuffin. Come for McMuffin, not me. But I agree with you on Provo getting robbed. And I understand the reality of the situation. I had someone tweet at me earlier today when I was, shout out to my guys, the Gambling Gauchos. I was piggybacking on their tweet saying that, it's stupid that both of the major pregame shows went to Austin, because Big Noon Saturday also went to Austin, Fox bringing their pregame there. I get why they're doing it, but it's like, that's a game with a 20-point spread. We know Alabama is going to win that game by multiple touchdowns. It's two major brands. It's not a great game. If we're talking about a great game, two ranked teams, new budding rivalry in a new conference, a conference champion from last year, the game with the richer storylines and that will be a better game is undoubtedly BYU and Baylor. And it does deserve, I felt like, hey, maybe it deserves at least the Fox pregame show. Can we at least kick it? The second tier pregame show, get a little bit more shine and a little bit more attention on it. So I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I would much rather see that. But this is the problem with where we're at in college football. It's really pretty emblematic of just the state of the game these days. The powers that be are the TV networks. The powers that be here, Fox and ESPN, they've chosen to just ride with the brands and go with style over substance here, which is, we just know that's what happens. That's how it goes. I think BYU and Baylor are both better teams. I would rather watch either one of them play Alabama than Texas. But that's what we have, and the pregame shows are going to be there. So on your point about it being a budding rivalry, I do like that because, look, the teams already played last year. Now they're going to play again this year. And there's already – I remember last year – so last year the game was in Waco, right? Yeah. Last year, BYU's radio crew, tweeting out pictures of the welcome that BYU – or that Baylor had laid out for them, gave them like some gifts, if I recall correctly, in the booth. Like just really nice, cordial gestures and starting a relationship there. So I guess, when I say rivalry, that sounds a little bit too friendly almost for a rivalry, but there's going to be familiarity there between the two schools already. And I think that will jumpstart things. And this was one of the natural rivalries and natural fits that people really talked about within the new league. Also, the jokes about like Holy War 2.0. There are similarities there in being, pretty religious based institutions. And now we're seeing a fun series kick off before the actual series gets going in the conference. So yeah, I do think this is setting the table for Baylor and BYU to be one of the really fun matchups to watch for years to come. I mean, the other part of it is both of these programs, like many in the Big 12, but both of these programs seem set up to have a good level of success for a long time. So I'm thrilled to watch the game. Screw ESPN, screw Fox, McMuffin. They're not going to be there, but you and I can turn our TVs on to watch it. The other part of this is great. Big 12 After Dark. This is Big 12 After Dark, man. We're getting into Big 12 After Dark already here with BYU and Baylor, a preview of what is going to be to come in the Big 12 with or without the four corner schools. But, if the four corner schools are added, obviously this type of thing would happen more often. So thank you, McMuffin. Thank you for being here. Blackjack Fabrication. Blackjack Fabrication says, is the K-State O-line anything to be concerned about? I will say this. It sucks that they lost Taylor Portier for the year. A guy that K-State believes is all-conference caliber for the second straight year is now out for the year. Has barely been able to play throughout his career so far, and now has had 2 major knee injuries. So that's going to hurt the depth. It will definitely hurt the depth. But if there's a position K-State's pretty deep at, offensive line would be near the top of the list. Maybe D-end or defensive line in general would be above that. It's a place where they can withstand an injury. There were some pass protection issues throughout the game, but they were running a lot of guys in there. They were rotating a lot of players in there just to get reps. No, I'm not very worried about it. Look, they rushed for almost 300 yards. It was over 290. So it was a great day on the ground. I think they'll be fine. I'm not particularly worried about it. Jake, what's up, Jake? Jake Anderegg. Great name there too. Jake Anderegg with 2 G's. My man, 2 G's. Thank you for the donation. Really do appreciate you being here. Jake says, top 6 conference champs in the new playoff scheme. Who is 6th? Group of 5. How will they decide? Go Cougs, BYU. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it's going to be. Like that's a part of the playoff that we haven't really talked about much here, being that it's, most things coming from Big 12 angle. But that is a huge part of this. The group of 5, it's a big win. I heard it was the Yahoo College Football Podcast, College Football Inquirer. They were talking about how big of a win it was for, is Craig Thompson, right? Who's the commissioner of the Mountain West. I may have that name slightly off. He's been fighting for a long time for this, for better, more guaranteed access for the group of 5. So it's a huge win for them too, as much as we celebrate it in the Big 12 and Pac-12 and say like, hey, everyone's going to have more access here. This will be a great thing for the sport and a great thing for these leagues. Same thing with a group of 5, man. They needed a W and they got a W here. So that's what you're going to have. I mean, with 6 conference champs, you're going to have likely the top 5 or all 5 Power 5 champs, because not only would you just, in all likelihood, the conference champion as it stands right now would make that field. In the future, we're going to have no divisions. I mean, all this is headed toward like nobody's going to have divisions. You'll just have 1 and 2 play in the conference championship game. So that cuts out the, Cinderella story, Northwestern that's lost 4 games that sneaks its way in with a division title and then could maybe upset somebody. You're not going to have that scenario really very attainable. So you should have all 5 Power 5 champs. And then, yeah, it'll be the best group of 5 champ that comes out of there after that, whether that's going to be the AAC or the Mountain West, which I would think in all likelihood, most of the time that's what it would be. But we'll see. Well, Sun Belt, I shouldn't leave out the Sun Belt. My apologies to the Fun Belt, especially now with the hits the AAC is taking with their losses to the Big 12. So, yeah, that's basically what you're going to have. And who will decide? It is going to be a committee again. I know that was a part of the release in all of this. We're still going to have a committee. They wanted to make that very clear. So it's not like the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is going away. It's just going to be that we'll have an expanded field, and they'll be choosing they'll be ranking teams again. So you get the top 6 at-larges and then the top 6 conference champions. James, what's up, James? Thank you for being here, my man. Thank you for the donation. Appreciate it. James says, I love to see Texas get pummeled, but won't bother watching the Alabama game. Wow. I have a rule: don't watch Alabama unless they have a chance to lose. Go Cougs! All right. Hey, that's a good rule. The problem with that, James, is I feel like you're not going to be watching very much Alabama football. And you may not have watched the Texas A&M game last year, which they did lose, right? Because I certainly didn't think Texas A&M had a prayer to win that game, but alas, they did. But I can respect that. I can respect that if you just don't want to. I mean, it gets boring. I'll be honest. Like most of the time, watching Alabama is pretty boring because if I do tune in, they're usually pummeling somebody. You might get your hopes up. Really, my favorite term for what happens with teams playing Alabama is stolen from the Solid Verbal, which is a great college football podcast. They just crockpot people. It's not like they come out and just blitz everybody 35-0 in the first quarter, but just slowly and steadily, they just cook you thoroughly over time. You just have no chance. And slowly, and all of a sudden, you look up midway through the third quarter, and it's like, man, it's 38-0, and we have absolutely no chance. We're not moving the ball here at all. So I get it, and I think that's likely how this thing probably plays out against Texas. Not just a flash bang right out of the chute, but probably slowly and steadily they will enforce their will on Texas and force some mistakes. I would imagine Quinn Ewers is going to make some mistakes. Made one very early last week against a much lesser opponent. I don't think that he is going to be ready for Alabama. And Will Anderson, I mean, good luck with Will Anderson. Good luck with that dude. Texas offensive line and Quinn Ewers, who obviously is going to be the recipient there of any action, any traffic that comes to the backfield. So, James, in a way, it would be nice if it turns into an interesting enough game to watch for a while, but I hope in the end, you're right. It's going to be a Bama blowout. Vanity Rose, thank you for the donation. Appreciate it. Vanity Rose says, Yormark can come for us all he wants. He's going to get a front kick and stunner. Then we'll put a foot on his chest and crack open a cold one. All right, so Vanity Rose, I take it you're a Pac-12 fan, responding to the comments of Brett Yormark today where he said he's going to be headed out west. Man, almost quoting Kid Rock there, right? Headed out west, sucker, because I want to be a Cowboy. Look, if I were the Pac-12, I don't know that I would be panicking about these comments at all because that was kind of my take to the comments. I actually had someone, a good Cincinnati fan, and I wish I could remember who it was on Twitter, DM'd me with the initial quote that was tweeted out today by their writer from The Athletic. I took one look at it. It hadn't really blown up yet. And I was just kind of like, oh, yeah, like, of course. Brett Yormark says the Big 12 wants to expand west and just kind of moved on and didn't really think a whole lot about it. But the rest of the college football world really jumped on it today, and it turned into a pretty big story. So I can understand the Pac-12 sort of, if you're shrugging your shoulders, being like, whatever, come and take it, that sort of attitude. That's fine because you are still going to have to prove with a TV contract or whatever valuation estimate that you get, quote that you get from TV networks. You're still going to have to prove to those four corner schools, if you want to get them, that there's going to be a significant financial advantage in order for them to do that. In all likelihood. I mean, I suppose there's a chance that it wouldn't quite take that, but in all likelihood, that's what it will take. So, you can say what you want. You still do have to back it up. I can understand that if that's your take from the Pac-12. And obviously, I believe that is a Stone Cold Steve Austin reference, right? I've always been like wrestling adjacent. I never followed it, but I have so many friends, and I used to have a boss, and I used to have a roommate that really followed it religiously. So I feel like I know enough just by osmosis there. That's like a Stone Cold reference, right? And by the way, here's the full quote from Brett Yormark earlier today. Brett Yormark, speaking at the University of Cincinnati, said, well, I don't want to get into specifics, and I appreciate the question, but obviously going out west is where I would like to go, entering that fourth time zone. A program that has national recognition, one that competes at the highest level in basketball and football, stands for the right things, is a good cultural fit. Because our alignment right now and the like-mindedness of all of our member institutions is fantastic. It's never been better, so I don't want to compromise that, and that's critically important, that there is the right cultural fit when you think about coming in and being a part of what we're building here. That was the quote that really drew all the attention today from Brett Yormark, and I'll give you more on that in just a moment once I get through all of your generous donations. So appreciate that, and appreciate you, Julius, another very, very generous donation. Thank you, my friend. Always appreciate the love and you being here on the channel. One of the big supporters here of what I am doing on this channel. Julius says, howdy, John. I've got the most pathetic sports take for BYU Baylor. I want both teams to play well, have fun, and be injury-free. Sure, I want the Cougs to win, but the Baylor fans I've dealt with are full of class. I can respect that, Julius. That is refreshing, man. I mean, the sports world, whether it's Twitter, whether it's YouTube, sports talk, anything, the sports world is generally a lot of gnashing of teeth, right? You're coming at people. You're like full throat, hot take, got to talk smack. And I understand that I'm a part of this. I'm not saying I'm immune at all. I've been in and around it for over a decade by this point. But that's why it's refreshing to see that. And I would say, like, I harkened back earlier in the chat to the like, hey, look at the gifts that were given to the BYU crew when they rolled into Waco last year after we already knew that BYU was going to be joining the conference. I would imagine BYU probably responds in kind. It does seem like there's a very healthy mutual respect there between the two schools. And a part of that has to also be that just both of the schools are pretty good right now. Both of the schools are enjoying levels of success that I wouldn't say like unparalleled levels of success within their program's history, but certainly they're both humming. Like both programs are humming right now. So they're good vibes. People feel good about what's going on at each school. That probably helps. They're excited about BYU helping stabilize the league. BYU, I'm sure, is excited about Baylor and what they can do to elevate the profile of the league. There are a lot of reasons that would be a pretty symbiotic relationship. So yeah, I don't sense a lot of bad blood or hostility there either. And I'll say that too. I will reiterate that as well. I would like it to be a great game. I would like to see injury-free, both teams play well, put on a show in Big 12 After Dark, man. It'll be a time where the nation tunes into Big 12 After Dark. Remember all the talk about Pac-12 After Dark and how those games rate. I mean, people will be interested to watch this, no doubt. Like, people will be interested to watch this. I'd imagine it does a pretty good TV number. So, yeah, put on a show, man. BYU and Baylor, put on a show. Let's have a good game and make everybody really interested in this across the country. Robert, what's up, Robert? Thank you for the donation, Robert. Robert says, stop with the San Diego State talk. Didn't sell out the stadium for the first game in Snapdragon Stadium. I live in San Diego and no one cares about the Aztecs. Give me Arizona. Well, Robert, I think the idea would be like potentially San Diego State instead of like Utah, but I'm not going to look. San Diego State had some issues with their stadium, no doubt. I saw the viral TikTok that was going around. It was interesting. I didn't realize, like, the architecture firms that were in charge of building it, like, had not built. And so if the TikTok is true, and I realize I'm telling you, like, trust a TikTok, but it sounded like the architecture was not great. There was not much shade. People were just dying in the heat out there. And it caused a lot of problems because of that. And I understand that in San Diego, like the Aztecs are not a massive draw, relatively speaking, to the market size and all of that. But Robert, I will just remind you, UCLA, did you see UCLA's attendance? Did you see how many people were at the UCLA game? How many people care about UCLA football in LA? Okay, now, where's UCLA going? They're going to the Big Ten. The Big Ten wanted them. The TV networks wanted them just for that little chunk, whatever extra little chip of the Pac-12 TV market was there. They wanted UCLA because of that. So I would not discount San Diego State simply because they're not, commanding the attention of, say, the Chargers when the Chargers were in San Diego. There's still value there in getting into SoCal. And in fact, let me read you this from John Wilner. John Wilner was asked about if San Diego State would join the Big 12 or the Pac-12. Like, if they had both options, which one would they join? And John Wilner said, if the Pac-12 permits the Big 12 to plant its flag in a campus that's 90 miles from Mater Dei, Bosco, Sarah, Poly, etc., it might as well close up shop. And he also had another tweet talking about the university president at San Diego State, and how ingrained she was in academia, and she would love to be mingling with the Stanford and Cows of the world. So he was making this point, like, no, look, the Pac-12 would get San Diego State, and pretty fiercely defended it. So I still think there's a healthy amount of respect for San Diego State in the realignment front there. So I don't think it's worth totally abandoning, even though they did have a rough first week with that stadium. They're not perfect. I mean, they're not. There's a reason that they're not in one of the leagues already. If they were perfect or an excellent candidate, that would probably already happen. But they are like the best of the rest. If you're not going to be able to poach from either league or from another Power 5 league, I do think they still stand alone atop the rest of the rankings there. Christian, thank you for the donation, Christian. Christian says, with how entrenched we are in our fandoms, what would realistically need to happen for you to say, I can't support K-State anymore? Is there anything? Oh, man, I mean, what a question. Like, I don't know. I don't know. There are schools in the league that have been through some healthy scandals, some really terrible things that have happened. I honestly, I have no idea how I would handle that. I have no idea how I would go through that. I don't know, man. I really don't. I hate to dodge the question, but I'm not really trying to go down a dark path necessarily here on the channel today. I feel like everybody's in a pretty good mood. So, like, I don't know. Yeah, if there's like a Penn State kind of scandal, it's tough. You're right. It's a part of my life. It's been a huge part of my life. I went to my first K-State game when I was uh, 2 years old. I'm trying to remember what my family always says, like 1 or 2 years old. Like as soon as they could get me in, didn't even charge a ticket at that time for me to come in. And I grew up with the Bill Snyder era at K-State. Like it is ingrained. It's a part of my life. So yeah, it would be really tough to completely abandon it. But I guess I wouldn't say never. Like there's nothing. So yeah, interesting question. I just don't want to dive too deep into that. And I hope you understand, Christian. But I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the question for sure. Michael, I see. Michael says BYU's been giving gifts. Thank you for the donation, Michael. Says BYU's been giving gifts, ice cream, etc. All indie. Am I? Does that have to do with being an independent? I apologize if I'm missing that at the end there. But yeah, I mean, BYU seems very friendly. He's very friendly. All the BYU fans I've interacted with on Twitter, YouTube, whatever, since all this has happened in the last year plus, extremely friendly. So I believe it, man. I definitely believe it. Justin, Justin, I feel for you, man. Justin says, I apologize for saying USF would beat BYU. My bad. I remember that. Justin came in like right at the end of one of the last chats and said, and very strongly proclaimed that USF was going to win that game. It didn't work out so well. I feel for you as a USF fan right now, man. Because I'll give you this, Justin, like, I always feel like a little bit of a connection to the USF program because of Jim Leavitt being the guy that really built it up. Jim Leavitt, K-State assistant, worked under Bill Snyder in those early days and helped turn K-State into a program that won 11 games, 6 or 7 seasons at one point, and 7 times won 11 games under Bill Snyder. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears from Leavitt went into that. And, for a long time, K-State fans, I think, considered him a pretty worthy successor to Bill Snyder. It just never quite worked out. In fact, John Curry, the old athletic director, it was reported later on by Brett McMurphy, had a plan at one point where he wanted Leavitt to come in as like a head coach in waiting for Snyder. So because of that, I always had an appreciation for what he built. And I remember that it was the 2007 season, right, where they got up into the top 5. It was the year that Kansas was awesome. A lot of weird stuff that happened that year. And so it sucks. It sucks that you've fallen to where you're at. Love UCF. Glad they're in the Big 12, but I can only imagine as a USF fan how tough it is to have that happening with your rival right there. That's rough. That's rough. So I wish nothing but the best for you. Nothing but the best for Gary Bohannon, who I thought was a fun player to watch in the Big 12. Nothing but the best to you guys the rest of the year. All right, Nick. Nick, thank you for the donation. Nick, generous donation. Thank you, Nick. Really, really appreciate that. Nick says, thoughts on the Mizzou game? I feel good about my Cowboys against Arizona State. Hope you guys beat the shiz out of the Tigers. Do us proud. Thank you, Nick. I feel pretty good about you guys against Arizona State, too, by the way. I think I got into this a little bit last time, but I am of the opinion that Oklahoma State's defense, I'm not ready to freak out about it like a lot of people were. Seeing the score, I understand I gave a 44 to Central Michigan and let them back into the game late, but they had such a massive lead. I mean, they have like a 5-score lead early in the third quarter. It's easy to take your foot off the gas. Then you're playing reserves. Central Michigan is a little more motivated at that point to be playing harder and care more than you at that point. First game without Jim Knowles, who was an excellent defensive coordinator. Like, I'm not going to panic about that. If I'm Oklahoma State, I'm not terrified of Emory Jones, the Florida transfer who's coming in at quarterback this week for Arizona State. So I'm with you on that. I think Oklahoma State will be just fine. My thoughts on the Mizzou game, I kind of outlined it earlier. I think I'd take K-State by a touchdown right now, which is pretty in line with what the spread is. Mizzou, they don't have a very good quarterback in Brady Cook. They've got a stud true freshman that I don't think they're in any way ready to hand the reins over to yet. Pretty good defensive line, good defensive ends, and a good pass rush, but they really struggled against the run last year, and K-State obviously has Deuce Vaughn and a very good running game. So I think as long as Adrian Martinez is ready to make at least a couple plays, which last week they didn't really ask him to make hardly any, I think K-State will be all right. That's kind of where I'm at on both of those. I think Oklahoma State, I would take the Cowboys by a couple of touchdowns. I think they're going to really control that game against Arizona State. So thank you, Nick. Thank you for the donation. Thank you for the questions. Appreciate you being here. Matthew Matthew, what's up, Matthew? Matthew says Texas Tech is about to remind Houston they are still little brother, winning 8 of the last 9. They thought 36K in the Alamo was intimidating. It was a great game last week between Houston and UTSA. It'll be a different environment at Jones AT&T Stadium this week, no doubt. And I'll say this was the note that I had as part of my kind of prove it week theme for week 2 of the Big 12 here. This is a game where I think we find out if Houston is ready for the Big 12, like truly ready. Last year, obviously, they lost that game to Texas Tech at the beginning of the year, then ripped off a great end of the season. Are they ready to carry that momentum through? I mean, let's just be frank about this. And I'm Cactus Mafia again. Love you guys. You were picked 9th in the Big 12 preseason poll. Now, say what you will about preseason polls and how much they mean. And as a K-State fan, I certainly understand that you should not be beholden to where you were picked in the preseason poll. But for Houston, you're a top 25 team preseason. You played for a conference championship last year. A lot of people think you're the favorite to win your league this year. You're coming into the Big 12 very soon. You're going to play the team that was picked 9th in the league. If Houston wants to be a school that can compete at the top of the league or near the top of the league upon entering the Big 12, this is a game they need to win. This is the type of game you should win. Also, by the way, going up against a first-year head coach in Joey McGuire, who's trying to get his feet under him. So that's prove it for Houston. Prove to us that you're ready to legitimately compete in the Big 12 and not just be middle of the pack. This is the type of game that you would need to win there. And for Texas Tech, I think this is just like a win that could help you skip perhaps like a half step in the rebuilding process. Prove that you're not going to be 9th in the Big 12. If you go beat a Houston team like this that's really primed for their best season, potentially in a handful of years. I mean, I know Tom Herman really had some nice seasons, obviously, with Houston and got to the Peach Bowl. But there's a lot of hype around Houston this year. If you can go win that game, beat them back-to-back, that's a really nice calling card. And as you say, little brother, it would kind of reinforce that idea if you can go beat this Houston team this year. So one of those games that I think will be just fascinating. And again, just makes me so mad that I'm going to be love the guy, but that I'm going to be at a wedding all day Saturday. There's so much good football to watch. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to watch live. I will try my best to see as much of that game as I can. So thank you, Matthew, for the donation. Let's see. Boom to the Sooner. Boom to the Sooner says, any thoughts on a pecking order for the Big 12? I saw someone say my audio is crackling. Let me, I'll turn it down just a touch. That usually just happens if I'm talking too loud. So hopefully that'll help a little bit. Boom to the Sooner. Any thoughts on a pecking order for the Big 12 after seeing a week's worth of games? Tricky just because, based on 1 week, what do you make of 1 week? Like K-State's performance, I don't feel like I learned very much at all. They got extremely conservative and just kind of turtled up once they built the 4-score lead early, which was in large part, special teams really helped out. So I just don't know. I don't know what they have in Adrian Martinez. I guess, who looked the most impressive to me. I'm not faulting Oklahoma State too much for what happened there. I would still consider them to be up there. I mean, Baylor looked great. It's Albany, but Baylor looked great. So I would continue to hold them really in the top tier of the conference. I thought your Sooners, boom to the Sooner, did look pretty good. Like Dylan Gabriel was impressive. I watched an extended highlight of that game. Have to admit, he looked very good. It's UTEP, but he looked very good. So I would still lump Oklahoma kind of in that top tier. I guess I'll hold K-State in the next tier because I still don't really know. I would kind of put Texas right there. Tough to know what you're really getting with, again, their level of competition. Iowa State, Hunter Deckers looked really good. And that's another fascinating game this week, right? Iowa State, Iowa. Is there going to be a massive overcorrection here on Iowa because of the embarrassing game they played offensively last week? But South Dakota State is a really good FCS team. And I think Iowa is probably better than what they showed. They also had some injuries. Can Iowa State go out there and snap their 6-game losing streak against their in-state rival? So Iowa State's probably kind of somewhere in the middle. TCU was one team that didn't really impress me very much. I think Colorado might be the worst Power 5 football team out there this year. They look dreadful. Now, TCU's also lost Chandler Morris, it sounds like, for a week or two. But if he comes back, I think they can be okay. But yeah, I don't know. I know I'm missing some teams in there. Texas Tech looked good. Again, against inferior competition, but Tech definitely looked good. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I wasn't really down on very many teams because even West Virginia, West Virginia lost, but I thought that was an impressive. I mean, they kind of game one. West Virginia, I feel so bad for you guys. West Virginia had that game totally in the bag before it all came unhinged in a really heartbreaking way. And JT Daniels, I thought was pretty good, but then at the same time, like, I feel like Neil Brown turns around and his job is on the line this week. Like, if you lose this game to Kansas, improved as they may be, and you had that, you kind of choked away the game against Pitt, and you're already sort of on thin ice there. Like, this may be a Neil Brown coaching for his job kind of a week. That's really where I'm at with that. Okay, I see all the people. Talking about the audio. Man, I'm sorry. Usually it gets crackly just when it is too hot, like I'm too loud, but my levels are not showing up as if they are too loud here. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on there. Let me know. Let me know if it's still having problems. I will see what I can do. I can try moving it a little further away from me too. Where was I at here with this? Brandon. All right, we got. I knew I could get some Houston, Texas Tech talk going here. Brandon says, little brother, even with Tech winning 8 of the last 9, Houston is still up by 4 in the all-time series. Relax, homie. Man, okay, so that's really where a lot of these discussions go, right? Like, who's hot recently, and then the all-time smack talk. I know very well about that as a K-State fan because we're not like leading the all-time series against virtually anybody, because for so long K-State was basically the worst program in college football history. So, like, I can understand the back and forth going on there. So Brandon, there's the shot back. There's the shot back. We got Matthew and Brandon going at each other with Texas Tech and Houston on the precipice there. All right, I see people saying it sounds like a connection problem affecting the audio, not a microphone problem. I don't know, man. It's my Wi-Fi is at full strength according to what I got here. I do not know, guys. I do not know. Look, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what to tell you on the audio. Unplug. See, the problem is if I unplug, I can't unplug, or it's going to be poof gone. That's where I really do get frustrated with YouTube, because there's not a way once I've started the stream to really adjust the audio. My mic does not have a battery. Mute it and bring it back. Joe, I appreciate the donation, Joe. You get caught up here. Joe says K-State did real good. Yeah, they were solid. Defense was very good. Just got better. Okay. Well, I muted it and unmuted it, so maybe that did something. Yeah, look, I appreciate you guys. I understand the frustration. Just understand, like, there's not a whole lot I can do once I get going with the stream. If I unplug and plug back in, it will not pick up my mic anymore. It just sucks it away, because I've done that before and had to restart the stream. So, yeah, my apologies. If the mic's a little low now, turn it back up just a touch. Doing what I can. Appreciate you guys being here, and thanks for letting me know. But yeah, Joe, thank you for the donation. Appreciate that, my friend. My analysis of K-State's week 1, they just got up big and went conservative. They were not going to ask Adrian Martinez to do a lot. They wanted to rest the starters and play a bunch of guys, because you don't have as much of a chance to do that in college football anymore. It's not like the old days where Bill Snyder would line up 3 South Dakotas, honestly, teams worse than South Dakota, and just get a lot of reps and blow out victories there. So I think they were trying to take advantage of it as much as possible. So yeah, I feel okay about it, Joe, but I need to see Adrian Martinez do something. And I understand if you're an outsider looking in, that's another one of my storylines really for week 2. If you're an outsider looking in, you'd have to look at it and say, man, like, how can I believe in this K-State team if Adrian Martinez was only 11 for 15 for 53 yards in week 1? Like, he's going to have to do more against better teams. So that's just still a question mark to me. Julius, thank you for another donation, Julius. Julius says, howdy, John, again. I feel like I've got to throw some rivalry smack. What's more embarrassing, losing to Oregon State or returning to live in Boise. Whoo, boy. That is some smack there thrown at Boise State. I will admit, I've never been to Boise. I don't really know anything about Boise other than, some things that I've read and seen. There was like a fitness guy that I really liked a while back who lived in Boise. It always looked pretty beautiful and like there would be some fun outdoorsy things to do there, but I don't know. I honestly have no idea what living in Boise actually would be like. But it's not just losing to Oregon State, Julius. It's like the way that happened. That was a pretty commanding loss, right? It was not a 1-point loss at the gun. Wasn't that like a 3-touchdown loss for them against Oregon State? And I know a lot of people, I was reading some of the Pac-12 chatter. It sounds like Oregon State has been getting a lot better, and there is a thought that they have a pretty good coach lined up right now. But yeah, that was not a good look. It was not a good look. So, Julius, I can appreciate the smack talk. I hope somewhere there's a Boise State fan that at least, and Boise, I've got nothing against you personally, but I hope somewhere there's a Boise State fan that at least heard that and got the message and became frustrated because of the rivalry smack that you just paid to put in here in the chat. So thank you for that, Julius. Appreciate you being here and your generosity as always here on the channel, my man. Okay, what do we got? We've got Raven or Revan. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing this, but Revan, any chance App State can put a scare into the Aggies? Yes, I do think there's a chance App State can put a scare into the Aggies. I would worry a little bit about App State's mental state where they're at after such a heartbreaking loss last week and just a wild game. I can imagine they were pretty spent by the end of that, right? 63-61, 40 points in the fourth quarter, and you still lose. But yeah, Texas A&M's not infallible. Excuse me. They've got a really talented roster, but a lot of those guys are so young. And A&M, this goes back to a comment we were laughing about here on the channel not that long ago. We were laughing about the fact that it's like Texas A&M. There was an A&M fan that got mad about, what was it? It was, somebody said that we're like an 8-5 program that just pays for all of our wins or whatever. It was like, yeah, that's what you are right now. It's a really high priced 8-4, 8-5 football program. So I realized they beat Bama last year. I realized they had that massive recruiting class, but 100%, I think App State can put a scare into them. App State's a program. That's no longer like just an upstart. App State's a program. They put it together with multiple coaches. They know what they're doing out there. So yes, I 100% think that they can put a scare into the Aggies. And is Clemson going to have a quarterback controversy? Certainly seems like it. I didn't get to see a ton of the game the other night against Georgia Tech, but it sure seems like DJU. That's what I'm going to go with. DJU. It seems like he was kind of the same guy. The Clemson, I think, at some point is going to have to make that switch. I think there's enough of a track record out there now that they kind of know what they have, and it's not what they really want to have with their guy at quarterback there. So yeah, I think they're going to have to probably make a change at some point. Dabo seems a little bit stubborn, a little bit too loyal to his guys sometimes, but he has in the past made that change when he went from Kelly Bryant to Trevor Lawrence, which obviously was a phenomenal call. It just took him some time to get there. So I would expect that to happen. And yes, to me, it's a controversy. I know to the fans, it's a controversy. To Dabo, I believe he said in the postgame press conference, no, there's no controversy there at all right now. He's going to stick by his guy until he doesn't. And I do think that's the right move, by the way. That's how you should handle it as a coach. Stick by your guy publicly until you have to actually go make that move. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. But I think you will see that eventually. I do. All right. All Blue 12. Appreciate the donation. Says, been missing the live show in recent weeks, so needed to donate for my free loading on the replays. No comment tonight, just a thanks. Go Cougs. Hey, I appreciate that, All Blue 12. That is a incredibly noble attitude of you, and I appreciate the support of the channel. Everybody, all you guys who are getting in here doing that, truly do. Truly do. It means a lot to me and allows me to keep doing this for you. Allows me to keep bringing you guys content. So much appreciated. There have been a couple of you who have hit me on Venmo as well. And if you're not watching this live right now, if you do want to support the channel, it's just John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. That is a way that you can do that. So thank you to everybody who does take that option as well. Ron W. Uh-oh. I see some more smack talk coming up here. Cactus Mafia. Again, don't come for me. Don't come for me. This is Ron. But Ron is taking the stage here to get involved in this. Ron says the Tech tumbleweeds need to just keep rolling aimlessly in the desert. Leave football to ranked teams. Go Cougs. Woof. Woof, boy. Boy, that is some smack. That is some smack, Ron. You're really bringing it strong there at Texas Tech. Cactus Mafia. It was Ron, not me. Now, Ron, I will tell you, it seems like Texas Tech has really embraced this desert thing after the comments coming from TCU. What was it? TCU's director of recruiting earlier this offseason when those comments really came. Yeah, seems like that's really been embraced by Tech. So they may just come after you on that. And by the way, I'll say this. One thing I appreciate about that game, I saw Dana Holgerson talking earlier this week about all the time that he spent in Lubbock, and he got asked if he's ever had a tortilla thrown at him. And he was like, well, I was there for so long. Usually they were being thrown at the other guys, but whatever, as long as you don't slap me in the face with it, that's fine. I appreciate Dana Holgerson's attitude about the whole thing. And that he has an appreciation for Texas Tech, man. That he has an appreciation for Tech. So that'll be really fun to see too. Dana Holgerson back on the sideline there at Jones AT&T Stadium. But you guys have been fun, man. Tech and Houston, Baylor and BYU, very friendly, very cordial. Tech and Houston, not so much. But again, this is the glory of college football. It's like Pitt, West Virginia. You have so much history with somebody. You've been playing them for so long. There's a real hatred that's developed between the two there. Just some bad blood with games over the years. That's what makes college football great. That's what makes the game great. All right, we talked about a lot of the games this week. I think we've covered most of the Big 12 games that are coming up this week. I want to, especially since this was the tease on the video, and I'll go through and I'll get you some chapter markers here after the video to help out for people that are just coming to hear about Brett Yormark's comments. I mentioned it earlier. I'll read you the quote again. Well, you know what? Let me read you the ESPN story because it has a truncated version of it. So the ESPN story, I'm going to start here with a quote from Yormark. It says, obviously going out west is where I would like to go, entering that fourth time zone. Yormark said Wednesday. He added to the Big 12's wish list a program that has national recognition, one that competes at the highest level in basketball and football, stands for the right things, and is a good cultural fit. The Big 12 strategy to target potential Pac-12 members for expansion has set off friction between the leagues, especially in the wake of the Pac-12 losing USC and UCLA to the Big 10 beginning in 2024. Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff asked about Yormark's open for business comment at his league's football media day, shot back saying, I appreciate that. We haven't decided if we're going shopping there yet or not. Of course, the old haven't decided if we're going shopping there yet or not comment. This is an interesting line, though, from the ESPN story. The Pac-12 declined to comment on Yormark's Wednesday remarks. So George Kliavkoff, who also had the comment about, like, we've been taking grenades from the Big 12 now for a while, he declined to comment here. I don't know if I'm the Pac-12, I don't know what the best move is here. Probably just to let this go, let it fade. Again, my response when I first read it was kind of a nothing burger. I didn't really think it would generate a lot of headlines, but it totally did. It did. If you go look at ESPN's college football page right now, you're going to see this near the top. People really cared and took notice of these comments from Yormark. I think just because they're brash and they come in the face of what we just saw from college football playoff expansion, where even I thought and still kind of think, I think it really puts the brakes on Big Ten expansion because there's going to be more incentive now for Oregon and Washington to stay at least for a couple of years in the Pac-12. I think this is the type of thing that helps tilt the Pac-12 to be able to like get signatures on the dotted line from Oregon and Washington in particular there. Like, hey guys, it wouldn't be the worst thing if you stuck it out for another couple of years here, wait for the Big Ten to see what they want to do. You'll have pretty easy access to the playoff. If you can just rip through our conference, you'll have pretty easy, unadulterated access to the playoff here. Phil Knight, if you're Oregon, can still continue to fund you with some extra money that you might be missing from revenue losses that, you know, the gap between the Big Ten and everybody else, right? Those are ways that you can help stay viable in the Pac-12. Plus the Big Ten, I think now you're going to see more of like the Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan states of the world being like, hey, we don't need to make every single game here ridiculously difficult because then we're going to have a harder time making the playoff. Like the Big Ten is going to have no problem sending multiple teams to the playoff every year as it stands once we get to 12 teams. So why muck it up and make it more difficult? That I think is why the comments are more jarring. Another angle to it, I think, is because the Big 12 just has not been it's not been the conference to do this. The Big 12 has always been panned for being reactionary. The Big 12 has been killed for just being weak, bowing down to Texas too much, like just never being proactive in these situations and being in a position of power. And those comments were certainly reflective of a league and a commissioner that feels like they are in power. Where was the Wilner quote? So Wilner, John Wilner again, covering things out in Pac-12 country. Part of his response was he said, Yormark wouldn't say this stuff publicly if the Big 12 presidents were uncomfortable with it. They don't care. Why should he? So he's really reflecting the attitude that like the Big 12 must be pretty unified in this sort of message and thinking this way if they're going to let their commissioner go make public comments like that. And I would tend to agree. And I think it's probably because the presidents and ADs and everybody who's been around the Big 12 for a while, they know full well what the reputation of the league has been forever. And they're saying, hey, we've got a guy right now who wants to be aggressive. We feel like we're in a position of slight leverage at this point. Let's go do it. Let's go be aggressive. Let's go be honest about our intentions. Of course, we're going west. And it's really, it didn't need to be said because the ACC grant of rights has everybody locked up. There are questions if even the SEC could pull teams out of there if they really wanted to. The only way to go is west. And we heard all about the TV contract and the advantage of being able to play in that extra time zone. I get all of that. And so that leads you to believe, without even needing to hear that from Yormark, that is the option. And Brett Yormark already said we're open for business. Like he already kind of addressed this. We're open for business. Of course, we're looking for teams. This was just a slightly more specific way to say it. And I do, Christian, I'll respond to this because I think it's a good point that you make. Christian says he mentioned basketball first. Could just be his background coming through, though. And you are right, because if we read the quote, he says one that competes at the highest level in basketball and football. Some people, and I know Jason Shear, who runs the Arizona 24/7 site, took it and said, like, hey, man, just come out and say Arizona. If that was some sort of intentional message or a slip, maybe, I could see how you would read into that and be like, all right, he's talking about Arizona. Like, that's the school that we're going to go get is Arizona because he's mentioning basketball first. I don't know that I'm fully ready to go there. And I agree with you. I think his background could be coming through because, again, guy that spent a lot of time with the Nets and helped get the Nets to Brooklyn from New Jersey. I think that it's more likely than when you're somebody that's making a lot of public comments and you're in that sort of like press conference situation, it would be more likely that, yes, like your just instinct to be thinking basketball because of your background, that type of thing would come out first. I wouldn't put it past him to have that be some sort of like veiled message and have thought that through strategically, but I would think it's more likely than not that it is kind of what you're referring to, that was not particularly directed at one team and more just like, hey, Pac-12, we're still thinking about you. And maybe the whole idea behind this from Yormark is just like further destabilization of the league, kind of remarks that are in the same vein as like what Kevin Warren has gone for a couple of times, where Warren a couple of times, it seems like has just said things to further destabilize the Pac-12 and just be like a warning shot and just kind of like shake the bridge that they're walking on and make it a little trickier. That could be the same thing here from Yormark, just trying to further destabilize, annoy, exert power, whatever it might be toward the Pac-12. I think that is very possible with what he was trying to do with these comments and just be like, hey, you guys may think realignment's slowing down because of the climate right now with the playoff, but we're still coming. We're still out here. We're still lurking. Don't like watch your back, basically. I think you can take it sort of like that. Watch your back from Brett Yormark with the comment today. So there's a brief summation of what we have. I'll throw this in there too. And guys, I see the donations. I will get to it in just a second. Really, really appreciate you guys. I just want to finish this thought and be fair to those who came to the video or the chat tonight, specifically for this topic. But Dennis Dodd, and I'll shout out to my guy, R. Webb. He's the one that directed me to these comments after I got off the last live and was saying why I thought this kind of made sense that realignment would slow down, especially from the Big Ten standpoint. Dennis Dodd said this. He said, realignment certainly got the presidents motivated for the good of the game. This change comes with a Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren continues to push university presidents to add 4 more teams from the Pac-12. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has declared his conference open for business. ESPN and Fox have interest what the Big 12 and Pac-12 look like in the future. In the end, there will be more emphasis on conference success determined by how many teams a league can have in the 12. Simple math would tell you the more quality teams a league has overall, the better. Plug that philosophy into realignment, and the Big 12 and Pac-12 beefing up their membership makes total sense. So he's kind of making the case here, like you need more good teams in your league to have a better chance of getting teams into the 12. And that's where I come down on, okay, I can compromise here and say that realignment may not be done from a standpoint of the Big 12 still trying to reach out, the Pac-12 still trying to, if you're going to poach each other, that Cold War may still be on between both of those, because it would be better to have more. You can just add more like quality depth to your league, so to speak, better chance of getting 12 teams in. But the Big 10, I think, is at a point where they have enough, bordering on too much quality depth here, where you could start having diminishing returns, where your league beats each other up too much. And you do hurt the chances of some of those schools to make the playoffs. So I think that's the difference here. Like this wouldn't stop the Big 12 from still trying to go further, cement itself as the best of the rest sort of league. And the Pac-12, whatever feeble attempt they want to make it coming after the Big 12, et cetera. I don't think it would stop either of those leagues from doing it. I do, however, think it will put some brakes on the Big 10, trying to make that move to go poach the Pac-12, which would be the big domino that would fall and really send everything into a tailspin, or at least more dominoes falling. Another major realignment wave, so to speak. Okay, we'll get to some more donations here. Hooterville, Texas. Appreciate this and the donation. Thank you. Hooterville, Texas says, for you younger fans, Houston was a dynamo in the Southwest Conference. Houston started the run and shoot, which kicked many Southwest Conference teams in their ever-loving butts for years. Houston fans, bring it strong tonight. Houston, I love to see it, man. I love to see it. Look, Houston fans, tough break to not have, be in the Southwest Conference and watch a lot of your old rivals go on to these bigger conferences and have to deal with that for a while. So I'm here for you, puffing out your chest, getting back into it, being excited about being in a Power 5 league and the potential of your school. Totally here for it. I think you guys should be doing that, and I'm interested to learn. I'm interested to learn things like that. To be honest with you, I don't know a ton about the old Southwest Conference. I was coming of age right as the Big 12 was forming. Maybe coming of age is even a little bit too strong. I was born in 1989. Okay, so if that dates it for you. So I really did not know the Southwest Conference. Like about the time I was starting to become real conscious and following college football, like consciously, it was when the Big 12 was forming right around 1996, when K-State played in the first Big 12 football game ever, beating Texas Tech. So I'm here for the history lessons. Find them interesting. I've had a lot of people send me little blurbs on whether it's BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, some of the new schools coming in here. Definitely here for it. MH says, great show, John. Keep up the great work, my friend. Neilio. Thank you, Neilio. Appreciate you being here and appreciate the kind words and support for the channel. And thank you guys for sticking with me through some of the audio issues here. I'm going to try and look up like if there is a way, once I get into the YouTube streams just drive me nuts, where you can't, most of the time if you're on Zoom or something, you can choose your audio input and like flip back and forth, toggle back and forth. To my knowledge, there's not a way to do that in these YouTube live streams. So maybe the answer winds up being looking into StreamYard or something else too. I can certainly do that if this is going to be a recurring issue, but hopefully just a one-time deal, and hopefully it didn't bother you guys too much. It seemed like most people did stick around. Don, far too kind. Don, super, super generous donation. Thank you so much for doing that, my friend. Don says, free loading payment. Don't care about Mizzou. Always enjoyed beating them, football and basketball. Go Cats. Don, looks like you've been a K-State fan for a while here, enjoying the old Mizzou beatdowns. I fondly remember 13 straight wins over Mizzou from 1993 to 2005 under Bill Snyder. Excellent time. Then Mizzou, won 5 straight, but K-State got the last one in 2011. So for most of my life, I'm with you. I can just remember K-State beating Mizzou like a drum. How about 66-0 in 1999? 66-0 over the Missouri Tigers. They were a pretty sad bunch there for a while. So yeah, it's kind of like, I don't, Mizzou, I've never like hated them, but I've always looked down on them a little bit, because when I was really in this, K-State was never much threatened by Mizzou. There was definitely a dominance there. Basketball, maybe a different story. That was much more back and forth. In K-State went through a stretch where they were terrible when I was younger, before I got into college. So, I'll give Mizzou some credit for that. Shout out to Mizzou for that, getting us in basketball some. But I'm with you. It should be fun, Don. On Saturday, I'm just looking forward to the old rivals getting back together, remembering some of those times, And hopefully this is a thing that can continue to happen. Like K-State has Colorado, Nebraska scheduled. I mean, it's way out in advance, but they're trying to get some of these teams back on the schedule too. I think that's all great for the game. Pitt, West Virginia has really ignited a lot of these feelings, I think, for a lot of people in college football. So hopefully we continue to see that. But go Cats, Don. Hope you enjoy the game on Saturday. Hope you enjoy everything I'm putting out here on this channel. And thank you for being such a great supporter of the channel. Rob coming back for Texas Tech. Rob says, give me a break, Houston fans. You have a student body bigger than your stadium, and you can't sell it out. There is a reason you were left behind. Woo, we're getting personal here with the Texas Tech Houston stuff, man. We're getting personal with it. I can't wait to see what happens with this game and then what the next live chat is going to be like, man. Good stuff between you guys today. Hiking Cat says K-State volleyball beats Missouri. Good start to the weekend. Oh, I didn't see that. Shout out to the Volley Cats, man. Shout out to Susie Fritz and company if they got Mizzou. That's a good omen, right? That has to be a good omen. Going to be a good Catterday then, coming up on Saturday with K-State and Mizzou. Ben, thank you for the donation. Ben says, hot take, K-State Mizzou is the most watched game when everyone switches off Bama, Texas by half. I'm hoping it's not, Ben, but that's only because I hope K-State wins it comfortably by a couple scores and I don't have to sweat it out. But I think it's possible. I think it's definitely possible. A part of the issue there would be I feel like it's a low-scoring game. I am not like I follow the lines. I think they're very interesting, but I don't actually really put my money down on much of anything. But I do feel like a pretty good bet is the under in K-State Mizzou. I was seeing it at like 57 today. Based on what we saw week one. And again, teams can change a lot from week one to week two. I understand that. But both quarterbacks, to me, left a lot to be desired, and both defenses seem pretty good. So it doesn't feel to me like a game that's going to be very high scoring. That may affect how many people would flip over to watch it. But I can see the scenario where you're right, because I do think there's a scenario where this is a really close game. Whatever it is, hope K-State comes out on top. And I do agree with you, Ben, definitely that people are going to be looking for something in that early time window. People are going to be looking for something because Texas, Bama, that is going to get out of hand. That is going to get out of hand. It's just going to be a matter of when, not if. So I hear you. Okay. I think that's going to about wrap it up here. We're right at an hour. Through some technical issues tonight. Appreciate you guys sticking with me, everybody who did. Hopefully it's not too terrible. If you're watching back on the stream, try to make sure that things get shored up. I'll do what I can to test everything out and make sure we don't have these issues. Doesn't happen too often. It's been a minute since we've really had something like that. So hopefully that's not going to be a major thing. But you guys are great. Thank you for the support. If you have friends or family you think would enjoy the channel, make sure to let them know. Spread the word via social media. If you're in different Facebook groups, whatever, on any social media platform, those are a great way to help spread the word for the channel and continue to grow this audience, which you guys have turned into just an excellent Big 12 community. You can support the channel on Venmo. It's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you'd like to do that. I'll give you this word of caution on Sunday. I believe I should be able to do the show on Sunday, but I will be driving back from a wedding. I'm going to try and leave pretty early in the day. I'm driving back from Indianapolis, so it's not a short haul, and there's just going to be a lot of moving parts that day. So there is a chance that I would have to move the live show to Monday, but I should be able to, at the very worst, get you a live show on Monday to react to the week of games. And I think Sunday will work out. It's just hard for me to project what all that's going to be like driving back from Indianapolis. So that's my situation. Enjoy your college football weekend. David want K-State student section controversy. What is it? Thank you for the donation, David. Basically, K-State students have taken to always chanting FKU no matter who they're playing during not only Sandstorm when they would play that song, but also now the Wabash Cannonball, which is one of the really like two fights, kind of like the co-fight song of the university. So K-State really wants it to stop. They've been trying to stop it for like 10 years. Jerome Tang came in and he really wants it to stop. And so it led to like a lot of frustration at the game on Saturday when it was still happening during the Wabash Cannonball, one of the two fight songs. So now the band director is like threatening to not play one of the two fight songs because the students won't stop chanting. So it's a mess. It's a mess. And frankly, like I'm a little exhausted by the whole thing. But that in a nutshell is what the controversy is right now. Hooterville, Texas, one more donation. Thank you, Hooterville, Texas. It says Hooterville, Texas is a reference to Petticoat Junction or Lacey, Lakeview, Texas. we have the Hooterville Water Tower. Sick 'em Bears. All right. Shout out to Petticoat Junction and Lacey Lakeview, Texas. Heard of Petticoat Junction, have not heard of Lacey Lakeview. So I learned something there today. The Hooterville Water Tower, man. Meet me at the Hooterville Water Tower. Talk some college football. Thank you for being here, guys. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.